A modern city at night looks permanent. Glass towers glow. Traffic flows. Data moves invisibly through cables under your feet. Everything about it says continuity. Tomorrow will look like today. Next year will look the same. And yet history is full of places that once looked exactly like this. Organized, wealthy, confident, until one day they simply stopped. No invasion recorded, no final proclamation, no clear ending, just silence. Tonight's story is about a powerful civilization that reached extraordinary heights and then left no record of its end. Not because it was weak, not because it was primitive, but because whatever happened to it didn't announce itself the way collapse usually does. And that is what makes it unsettling. Because if a civilization this advanced could disappear without leaving a final explanation, so could ours. To understand this mystery, we need to go back more than 4,000 years, to a civilization that quietly mastered urban planning before most of the world had even imagined cities. Long before Rome, before Athens, before the pyramids were old. Along the floodplains of the Indus River, a civilization emerged that modern historians would later call the Indus Valley Civilization, or the Harappans. At its peak, it was one of the largest civilizations on Earth, rivaling Egypt and Mesopotamia in size, population, and complexity. This was not a scattered tribal culture. This was a coordinated urban world. Over 1,000 cities and settlements stretched across what is now Pakistan and northwest India. Streets were laid out in precise grids. Homes were built with standardized bricks. Drainage systems ran beneath the streets, carrying waste away from homes through covered channels. Many houses had private wells and toilets, features that would not become common again in much of the world for thousands of years. This level of planning required authority, organization, and shared standards across enormous distances. Brick sizes were consistent across cities hundreds of kilometers apart. Weights and measures were standardized. Trade networks extended to Mesopotamia, where Indus seals have been found in ancient ports. And yet, despite all of this sophistication, something is missing. There are no grand palaces, no towering temples, no royal tombs, no carved monuments boasting of kings or victories. Most striking of all, there are no written historical records describing their rulers, their wars, or their downfall. The Indus people had writing. Thousands of seals contain symbols, short inscriptions, repeated patterns. But the script remains undeciphered to this day. No long texts, no chronicles, no epic stories. Whatever they recorded, they did not record it in a way that survived time. So we are left to reconstruct their world from what they built, and from what they didn't. At their height, cities like Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa were marvels of order. Streets intersected at right angles. Public baths were carefully engineered with waterproof bricks and drainage. Warehouses stored surplus grain. Craft workshops produced beads, pottery, metal tools, and jewelry with astonishing consistency. There is little evidence of extreme inequality. Homes vary in size, but not dramatically. There are no obvious elite districts separated by walls or fortifications. Weapons exist, but not in quantities suggesting constant warfare. This has led many scholars to describe the Indus civilization as unusually stable, perhaps governed by councils or shared civic norms rather than by divine kings. For centuries it worked. Then gradually, or perhaps suddenly, it didn't. Around 1900 BCE, signs of decline appear across the Indus world. Large cities were abandoned or shrank dramatically. Urban planning deteriorated. Brick standards changed. Long-distance trade collapsed. Crafts became simpler. Populations dispersed into smaller rural settlements. And then, nothing. No burned layers signaling conquest. No mass graves. No inscriptions describing catastrophe. No final city standing as a last capital. The civilization didn't fall in a dramatic moment. It faded, and it left no record explaining why. For a long time, scholars tried to impose familiar collapse narratives onto this silence. The earliest theory was invasion. In the 19th and early 20th centuries, some suggested that Indo-Aryan tribes swept in from the northwest, destroying the Indus cities. This idea lingered for decades, partly because it fit colonial-era assumptions about history. But archaeology doesn't support it. There is no widespread evidence of warfare at the end of the Indus period. No citywide destruction layers. No sudden replacement of populations. No weapons buried with victims. The idea of a violent conquest simply doesn't match the ground truth. Another explanation blamed environmental catastrophe. The Indus civilization depended on rivers, especially the Indus and its tributaries. Geological evidence suggests that some rivers shifted course over time. The Ghaggar-Hakra river system, once a major lifeline, may have gradually dried up due to tectonic changes and weakened monsoons. If water sources failed, agriculture would suffer, trade would slow, cities would become unsustainable. This theory fits some of the evidence, but not all of it. Environmental change is usually uneven. Some regions should have adapted better than others, yet decline appears across the entire civilization. And even if rivers shifted, why didn't the Indus people record the crisis? Why no emergency measures? No massive migration centers? No final urban hubs? Then there is climate. Recent studies of ancient climate data suggest that the monsoon weakened significantly around the time of decline. Rainfall patterns changed. Flood cycles became unpredictable. Farming systems designed for stable seasonal rhythms would struggle. Again, this helps explain stress, but not silence. Civilizations under environmental pressure usually respond visibly. They build dams, they centralize power, they fight over resources. They leave behind signs of desperation. The Indus civilization did something else. It decentralized. Instead of clinging to cities, people moved outward. Urban centers emptied gradually. Small villages spread across the countryside. Life became more localized, more flexible. It is possible that the Indus world did not collapse in the way we imagine collapse. It transformed. But transformation still leaves traces. And the biggest mystery remains: why did they stop writing? Even as cities declined, the Indus script disappears entirely. No transitional forms. No simplified versions. No later cultures clearly inheriting it. A literate civilization became illiterate, or at least stopped using writing in durable ways. That is rare. Writing is one of the hardest technologies to abandon. It is too useful, too powerful. Civilizations that lose it usually do so through extreme disruption, war, famine, systemic breakdown. And yet here, the abandonment seems almost deliberate. Some researchers have proposed that the Indus script was never meant for long texts, that it was primarily symbolic or administrative. But seals alone cannot explain its total disappearance. Others suggest that social organization changed so radically that writing was no longer necessary. If power decentralized, if trade networks shrank, if communities became self-sufficient, then the systems that required record-keeping may have vanished. But that raises a disturbing possibility. What if the Indus civilization didn't collapse because of a single disaster, but because the very structures that made it powerful became unnecessary? What if complexity itself was the vulnerability? Large cities require coordination. Infrastructure requires maintenance. Trade networks require trust and stability. When environmental conditions shift slowly, but persistently, the cost of maintaining complexity may outweigh the benefits. Instead of fighting to preserve urban life at all costs, the Indus people may have chosen a quieter path. One that left no monuments, no declarations, no heroic last stand. They simply stopped being a civilization in the way we define civilization. And that choice, if it was a choice, left almost nothing for history to record. Unlike Egypt, which carved its identity into stone, the Indus world built mostly in brick. Brick erodes, brick returns to earth. Brick does not shout across millennia. Their values may have favored functionality over legacy, clean water over colossal statues, order over ostentation, balance over dominance. And when that balance could no longer be maintained at scale, they let it go. There is something profoundly unsettling about that, because it challenges the idea that civilizations always fight to survive in recognizable form, that they always leave warnings, that they always mark their end with drama. Sometimes they don't end with fire. Sometimes they end with silence. Today, millions of people live atop the ruins of Indus cities, often without realizing it. Modern towns reuse ancient bricks, roads follow old street grids. Wells are dug where wells existed 4,000 years ago. The civilization never announced its end, but parts of it never truly left. And yet, we still don't know why it stopped being what it was. No final message, no last inscription, no explanation carved in stone. Just an advanced society that reached extraordinary heights and then stepped out of history without telling us why. When we look at our own world, our cities, our infrastructure, our dependence on stable climate, global trade, complex systems, we assume continuity. We assume records will survive, that our story will be told. But the Indus civilization reminds us of a different possibility. That even greatness can fade quietly, that power does not guarantee permanence, and that the most advanced societies may leave behind not answers, but absence. If a civilization this organized, this widespread, this sophisticated could disappear without recording its end, what makes us so certain that we won't?